And welcome back to another episode of Kris Yeti's News Review. This week we're going to cover all sorts of things, including China and their review of COVID. They think only 60,000 deaths means they have cleared the hump. Well, we got news for you, China. The Russian President Putin says the Ukrainian war is going well. Is it? And why does anybody still care about the US sport pageantry? This and plenty more on this week's episode of Kris Yeti's News Review. All right, let's get right into it this week. We got, of course, China and what's going on in China with COVID. It's kind of funny. They're really echoing the news of what happened in the United States, where every inch of the COVID disaster process, it basically was, oh, this is as bad as it's going to get. We're over the hump. Don't worry about it. And pretty much anytime anyone ever said that on the news, you could trust it was going to get worse. We should always take that into account. For anything in the future, the authorities or government decides to come out and say, oh, guys, this is the worst it's ever going to get, so don't worry about it. We can assume it's going to get a whole lot worse. Now that China is coming out and saying that very same thing, 60,000 deaths means this is the peak and it's not going to get any worse than this. China, unfortunately for you guys, the rest of the world is largely immune to COVID now because everybody that wasn't immune to it has already died and we have just gone on with our lives. Now China is realizing this in full force. They're just the last country to do so because of how much they locked themselves down. Well, actually, North Korea may have a similar situation, but they don't matter because they don't let anybody in to observe their country. So they're just continuing to be the hermit kingdom. So now that China is saying 60,000 deaths, the worst has passed, actually means buckle your seatbelt because it's just getting started. I predict the death toll will exceed 100,000, if not double 60,000 at 120,000. If you're in China and if you're watching this, keep wearing that mask and don't risk COVID if you don't have to. So that's what's going on in China. But now if we zoom a little bit over into Russia and view the Russian-Ukrainian war, we can know that it has gone absolutely nowhere. But Russia continues to throw missiles over at Ukraine, and Ukraine continues to basically do the same thing over at Russia, but with less intensity because they don't want to risk escalating it. Russia is in a very interesting situation. Usually, other wars are fought by progress of how much land they've gained. However, Putin says the war is actually going great. And he has a thumbs up, I'm sure, somewhere. You wouldn't be able to expect Putin to say anything but great. They measure success by number of dead bodies in the Russian military. That's a terrible thing to laugh at, but it's true. Russian casualties are going to have to exceed 1 million casualties before they bat an eye at the problem. And Ukraine is a long way away from dealing that kind of level of casualties to Russia. So until Russians lose 1 million people, they're not really going to care. To them, this is just an appetizer. The whole world thinks Russia is a joke, but Russia just sits there and is like, I think we're doing fine. We're succeeding here. We've only lost almost 200,000 people, but that's good. Everyone's high-fiving each other in the Kremlin like, haha, 200,000 people, woo! All that ammunition and stuff that the Ukrainians take, they can have it. This stuff is so outdated, we need an excuse to make more. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have news where Ukraine just keeps receiving more and more hardware. I'm not 100% convinced this is going to be a successful route for Ukraine. One of these examples is Germany has said they're going to start sending tanks to Ukraine throughout this year and next year. They may not get started until 2024, but these tanks are big and bulky and lots of armor. However, I'm pretty sure Ukraine was going in the news and bragging that all of these infantry rocket launchers were taking out tanks without them needing anything else. And everybody in the media is questioning, what is the point of a tank anymore when an infantryman can just sit back 6 miles and shoot off a missile that's gonna rip apart a tank? And then now apparently Germany is gonna send tanks to Ukraine? I guess the Germans didn't get the memo last time they sent a bunch of tanks to go fight Russia 80 years ago. It didn't work out so well for them, and I can't really see it working out well for the Ukrainians, but the Germans probably just get some good hardware feedback, like, oh yeah, we need to move the seat over a few inches and make the cannon a little bit longer. Of course, bigger, better, stronger. But again, when you have infantry shooting rockets miles or kilometers away, why give Ukraine tanks? Why can't Russia just do the same thing? Russia isn't as technologically advanced as other countries, but they still have quite a few resources to put at their disposal. So I wouldn't discount it for too long. They're probably going to lose the tanks in the same way that Russia is losing their tanks to Ukraine. Good luck with this lesson. That seems to be so obvious to everybody else. All right, another news outside of the world news is the United States and their freaking pageants. The US has this thing about where they want to have competitions with women that compete, and all they do is compete about walking on stage or talking about how they want world peace or how well they can dance. It's like America's Got Talent, but for people who don't have talent. These ladies, of course, look gorgeous and act gorgeous, but that's all this stuff is simply flaunting their physical beauty, which I don't have a problem with. I personally love physical beauty. However, the way that the news runs with these headlines about pageantry is a bit ridiculous. I mean, on one hand, you could say it's a sport. On the other hand, you could say it's not a sport, but it is a competition, and it's a competition of beauty. The closest thing I can think of to the male spectrum is bodybuilding competitions, but they have both male and female, so that's not the same thing at all. Adult pageantry is one thing altogether, but children or minor pageantry is something that just needs to be banned. The people that organize these communities and the people that judge them are people that should be watched very, very closely. This is right up there with those dancing groups that flaunt their 7-year-old girls in bikinis, say that the problem isn't with them, but the people who watch them. I think we need to put pageantries on high alert. This is one thing that needs to be canceled. Give me a good reason in the comments below why United States pageants should continue. What is the point of this entire corporate scam? It's ran by a small few select people that control everything from top to bottom. It's not like the Olympics, which is a scam all on its own. We'll get to it another day. But folks, pageants are a waste of time, and unfortunately, if you participate in them or you have family that participates in them, you should immediately withdraw them for the sake of their sanity. God, all those poor children that get masqueraded through these pageantries, and then the few of them that grow up through this nightmare end up in the national spotlight just to make a fool of themselves. I don't really care who won or why they won. The whole thing is a joke and needs to... I saw this article here the other day. Kendell Jenner going braless in public. Now, this isn't necessarily something new for the overhyped media to latch onto and hope they make a few quick dollars with. When you make a post about a celebrity that is missing certain clothing attire directly connected to sexual attraction, that's no different than being in the group of a bunch of 10th graders fighting over a half-soaked Playboy that they found under a dead body in the sewer near the local high school center. It's like, oh look, I found a Playboy! Boobs! Boobs! And then they're all fighting over it. Oh my God, look at these boobs! And so when the media comes out and they basically are saying the same thing about her, like, why do people give a Why do people care what she comes out in? I know she's a celebrity. I know people want to make money off of her, but that's the only reason. They do it to make money. And they're, quite frankly, they're embarrassing themselves. They're putting out cheap content, just continues to invest in the problem that is today's media. It's all a joke and it's all for money. So don't get caught up in the scam. And in other news and other parts of entertainment, I don't know if you folks have heard about Waffler69, but his real name was Taylor, and apparently he had a career in YouTube and YouTube Shorts and TikTok, simply gorging out on every possible food to make entertainment out of it, and for folks just to watch him. I don't necessarily know why. I'm hoping it's because they love the guy and not because he was stuffing his face full of all this food. However, unfortunately, at the age of 33, he's dead. And you know why he's dead? Cardiac failure. And do you know why he had cardiac failure? because he stuffed himself with endless amounts of unhealthy food for the sake of one extra view. For just getting more and more people to watch his videos, he ate more and more and more. He ate himself to death for the attention of the online community. And if that's not some Twilight Zone horror episode, I don't know what it is. Or today it's Black Mirror, whatever you kids call it. We should really take a step back and reflect on this poor bastard soul who gave everything for attention and just lost it all. He ate himself to death. And there are still an entire community of people that call themselves mukbangers and people who just eat to gain weight, who eat for an increase in their following. Just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. They gain more and more weight. It is not healthy to do this. I don't care what anybody says about body positive image. This is not positive. This is negative. And if you try to convince yourself that it's anything but positive, then you're just leading to a road of cardiac failure. Don't do it. I really want to tip my hat to Taylor. He seems like a wonderful fellow. I think the world and his family and friends are going to miss him severely, but learn this lesson to not eat yourselves to death for simply a few more views. Just take this channel, for example. I got like 10 viewers. And I thank each and every one of you that happened to make it to this point in the video. And by the way, I'm pretty sure we're at 50 subscribers, so thank you, and thank you all. But we will not be eating ourselves to death on this channel. You'll have to find somewhere else to go. Eat healthy, stay healthy, and have an active lifestyle. I don't care what 1,000 articles on Reddit says, you can't get away with that for long. Just because you're obese doesn't give you the excuse to say that that's right. It's just not. It's okay to be who you are, and if you're obese, then that's okay. But you need to look at a lifestyle that can improve that. On to my favorite topic, technology. James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, has detected and confirmed its first exoplanet. This is fantastic, and the community, I've heard, is struggling to actually come up with a name for this new exoplanet, and I've heard that it's going to be the name of the next child of Elon Musk, and that's XXX. No scope XXX. It's very exciting that we're detecting new planets and confirming them in even higher definition. They say this one is the same size of Earth, but it's probably a barren wasteland outside the Goldilocks zone, so it's not really going to be a place that we could move to and live inside of. I mean, the whole Mars argument is a completely different conversation. We probably will get there. It's going to be hundreds of years from now. We'll be lucky if Elon can manage to ship his dead body to Mars as he wishes, but he'll probably spend half of his fortune just to make that work. There are some who say that Elon's body is trapped in the trunk of the Tesla that's orbiting the sun right now. It's likely AI that has taken over the Elon Musk that we know today on Earth, and that's why he's naming his kids these ridiculous names that he's just clearly gonna have to buy an entire school so nobody bullies his kid. That's the only way you can get around a society bullying an outcast name where you come up with this, where you can't even pronounce it. You remember the teachers who sat there and tried to pronounce Rebecca? Forget it. They're gonna have to tip and fund and pay for every teacher to pronounce his name correctly from here on out. Not just them, but everybody in his life. I love the idea of naming children something unique, but don't name them something so unique that they're just an outcast from day one. And the only reason that they may not be an outcast is because their dad is so rich, he could just close the school down. And we have made it to the sports section, and we're going to talk about the NBA because it is now 2023, and that means the second half of this season has begun. Now, we still have the NBA All-Star Game coming up, and really, things start picking up greatly after that, but I say once the new year turns over, people start to hyper-focus on getting those good seeds for the playoff games. During this heated moment, you're going to have LeBron James, who is now number 2 to 38,000 career points. That's phenomenal. I don't know who else is going to break this record potentially besides Seth Curry and my boy Luka and the Dallas Mavericks. It may take them their entire career to do this. I think Seth Curry has a very good chance at becoming the number 2 all-time scorer, if not the number 1 all-time scorer, and I'm a much bigger LeBron James fan than I am a Seth Curry fan. It's going to be kind of funny if LeBron James, he's practicing this skyhook and he just keeps missing for some reason to get this final record So then he just shoots a blind three-pointer again and lands it. That's going to be the best way to possibly get over this. Also, Ja Morant keeps popping up in the news for his incredible dunks. Quite frankly, it's not a good thing for Ja Morant to be in the headlines week after week after week with the number of dunks that he's accomplishing. Sure, the man is energetic and he's flying all over the place, but it's so rare for a basketball player to use dunks into the second half of their career. The fact that he's so strong on this, I don't know if that's going to be a good symbol for his potential to help a team. What can Ja Morant do besides fly from the three-pointer to the goal and dunk it? I feel like he's got some good layups. He's got an okay mid-jump. We'll have to see what he does in the playoffs. Dunking isn't going to get him the championship, so he needs to figure out some new skills. It's flashy, it's popular, people love it, and you should do it to a certain degree, but don't do it to the point where that's the only thing people know you by. Now, you really want to start winning, get on ship with my boy Luka, who's just constantly crashing these last-minute buzzer beaters and sending his team into overtime or simply just winning the game. Luka is going to be phenomenal. I actually think Luka, who cares about Steph Curry? Who cares about LeBron James? Luka. This guy is amazing. I even say that he's going to be better than Larry Bird. Anybody in the comments below, tell me why you think Luka cannot be better than Larry Bird, other than simply nostalgia, which doesn't count. Doesn't count. And that's going to be a wrap for this week's episode, folks. We're going to be back next week, so you'll want to stay tuned. And thank you so much for your support if you made it this far in the video. I really do appreciate it. But until next time, grab yourself a drink. Cheers and good night.